Tonight, the ending of Earth 2 World's End is already being rewritten to fit into narrative purposes, which is crazy because it's only been 2 goddamn weeks. Aquaman is as close to the boys The Deep as he'll ever get in what can charitably be called mainline continuity, and someone take the pencil away from Keith Giffen, he's just writing fanfics again. All that and more tonight on the Not So New 52. Hello everybody and welcome to episode 189 of the Not So New 52. I am your host and we are trucking on with Convergence month. I really don't know how I want to market this one. It's technically 2 months. We're on the second week of it, but by God, if I think of it all as 1 month, maybe, just maybe, it'll go by faster. Not that this week was inherently awful. Wasn't great, but I do want to get back to normal comics sooner rather than later. So, I really don't have that much to say in the opening here. The only thing is, if you managed to skip over last week's episode, I did say that the Convergence months are basically broken down by week into different time periods in DC's history. You have pre-Flashpoint, you have pre-Zero Hour, you have pre-Crisis, and I think you have like old school Golden Age. I'm not to that point yet. This one is the timeline cut off definitively by 0 Hour, which is where Hal Jordan went crazy with Parallax and he came back as a big villain and wanted to remake all of time to be him. So we're kind of in that zone. This one is entirely based in Metropolis, based around that era, and we get a new host of heroes than we did last week, but just know that we're all dealing with 0 Hour at this point. One which I am not that familiar with. I have an omnibus of the entire event. I have just never read it, and Hypertime confuses me more than the multiverse. So if anybody wants to try to educate me on that, by all means, hit me up in the comments. For this week, though, let me just tell you the comics we got coming out. We have the standard Convergence, number 2, following the Earth 2 people in their wacky hijinks on Telos. And then in no particular order, though I think it does happen to line up with how I want to do this episode, we have Catwoman, Green Arrow, Justice League International, Suicide Squad, Superboy, Aquaman, The Shadow of the Bat, Green Lantern Parallax, Supergirl Matrix, and Superman Man of Steel. The only ones out of that I want to clarify is Man of Steel is following John Henry Iron Steel. That's that thing. And Shadow of the Bat is following both Batman and Azrael back when he was in Bat books. So yeah, that's the long and short of it. Don't really think there's anything else I need to say going into this week. So we'll just lead off with the main headlining event, which is Convergence. Convergence number 2, written by Jeff King, art by Carlo Pagulayan. Last issue we had Telos making the big announcement saying, hey, everybody's got to go fight, and the Earth 2 people are just kind of standing around like, are we part of this story? What are we doing? So this issue opens up with the final day of Earth 2, and we're following Dick Grayson and his son Johnny. And at this point, their mother, Barbara Gordon, is killed, so Dick Grayson's going around just like, hey, it's okay, we're going to get through this together, son, and trying to get him onto the ship, even though he thinks he's dead, everything is ruined, they're all not going to make it. But they try getting onto the ship using a priority seating code that was provided because Barbara was in the law enforcement career. But because she died, the people at the gate are like, you don't get to use that code. That was for her. Like, get out of here. You're not coming on. And at that exact moment, like, the ships start taking off. All the apocalyptic forces are attacking. And he's like, oh, please, you have to let in my son. Oh, you at least take him. And they're saying no, 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 until some hooded woman that we barely get the face of says, give him to me, I'll take him. And it's like, oh, will you keep him safe or whatnot? It's like, yeah, totally awesome. So she takes Johnny. Johnny's like, no, Dad, let me stay with you. And he's like, oh, I love you, Johnny. You'll be okay. I'll catch up with you, I promise. And then yeah, they take off, the whole ship goes up, and that's the last that he's seen of his son. And then he's like, yeah, Batman and Flash were fighting against the parademons. Meanwhile, Superman was taking on Darkseid, and it was a whole big thing. I was working with Batman for a little bit there, but when push came to shove and we were at our final moments, there was a big, bright light, the sky opened up, and all of a sudden, tendrils of energy just pulled us up and out of there. And that's the last thing we remember. So he comes to, Yolanda's next to him inside of the weird silver goo stuff that Telos uses, and she's waking him up, just being like, hey, you good? You awake? You're really breathing heavy there. And he's like, yeah, I'm fine anyway. So they wake up and Telos is like, yes, wow, look at that. They're not really doing a lot of fighting. That's a little bit disappointing. And as they're doing that, Batman, Val-Zod, they're all just chiming in saying like, oh, Telos, you're such a mean guy. You need to set all these cities free. You're just a crazy kid with an ant farm. And he's like, no, this is what must happen. This is, okay, yeah, no, I might need to just push this a little bit. Just need to get things going. So he looks and he says, oh, I got this timeline from Future's End. It's made of crazy cyborgs and such. And, which one should I pick to fight against it? Oh, how about that one? The Just Imagine by Stan Lee comic line. Earth, I believe it's like 6? Maybe? Somewhere in there. So he's like, yep, nope, that sounds like a good matchup to me. So immediately, like, they set them in a fighting area together, and the Superman of that are just like, all right, those are crazy killer robots. I don't like our odds, Wonder Woman. And then they just get slaughtered. Like, all of them are dead. And Telos is like, that went well. All right, cool. So immediately the Justice League is like, hey, whenever he's focused on that stuff, he loses focus on up. We could break out of this goo. And so Superman's like, I'll do it. And he smashes out of it. Everyone else has to do their thing. Superman comes out and just starts laying into Telos, throwing punches. Telos, being in control of the planet itself, makes giant rock hands to grab hold of Superman, tries to grab hold of the rest of the crew. Flash manages to speed a lot of them out of the way. And that's where Alan Scott's like, I'll use my Green Lantern powers to commune with the planet. And then he starts screaming in agony as this dark energy starts overcoming him. And Telos is like, you stupid idiot. I told you, I am the planet. And Alan's like, all right, well then you can take this energy back. And he blasts it at Telos, and Telos seemingly turns to dust. And everyone's like, did we beat him? That seems like way too easy. It's like, yeah, no, he's probably coming back. But Alan Scott's now off the table. All of that energy messed with him. Dick Grayson sees Batman injecting Miraclo into his body, and he's like, what was that, Batman? He's like, nothing. Shut up, kid. You didn't see nothing. So at that point, there's a loud crunching noise, and Telos reforms himself out of the planet itself. Now, like, kaiju sized, he's just this massive being, and he's like, didn't I tell you I was one with the planet? So Val-Zod goes up, he starts laying punches, and I got a bone to pick with that, but regardless, he throws the punch and he's like, oh, I swore I'd never let people be trapped again, it's I'm not letting this happen, and he just keeps on laying into him. And Telos is like, bro, you don't even have a city. I do not care about you at all. And he just turns to dust again. And Val-Zod's like, okay, did we actually beat him this time? Because that, again, seemed really easy. And Alan's like, nah, I'm still a little bit tapped into the planet, just barely. Now, he's around. He just literally does not care at all about this. Though, being tapped into the planet, I can feel that he has a flaw. He has some plans and stuff. He has something deep beneath the planet, underneath the surface that we need to get to. So that's the plan. And Batman's like, okay, you guys go do that. I'm going to take Dick Grayson here, and we're going to go into a nearby Gotham that I saw over there. And they're like, okay, sounds good, Batman. And Grayson's like, I'm sorry, why am I with you? What are we doing here? And he's like, yeah, you don't have powers. You're coming with me. So they start making their way towards Gotham. There's apparently some peacekeeping drones to keep everybody inside their cities. And Batman's like, yeah, we're outside the city going in, so they won't care. And they just waltz their way in, no problem. As they get to Gotham, Batman opens up a sewer grate, goes down inside. And he finds a door deep down in the sewers. And Dick's like, how in the hell do you know that would be there? He's like, that's where I'd put one. And Dick Grayson very slowly puts 2 and 2 together and is like, wait a minute. We're going into a bat cave? And wouldn't you know it, they come out into this city's bat cave. I believe this is post-crisis. I think. It's so we see go over to the bat computer, and Thomas is just like, sit down, don't touch anything. I'm going to go find the person in charge here. And as he sits down, the computer blips active, and he sees Barbara Gordon on the screen. And he's like, oh my God, that's my wife. She's alive. And she's like, hey, who are you? Why are you in that chair? What do you do with Batman? He's like, he's upstairs. I don't know. What's your name? And she's like, Barbara Gordon. And she's like, oh my God, it's my wife. But he very quickly realizes it's not his wife, as Alfred comes in and just like, it's all right, Barbara. We got this handled. Don't worry about it. And he turns to Dick and he's like, who are you? Why are you in the Batcave? And he's like, Batman brought me. And he's like, doubt it. What's the name of Batman? He's like, Thomas Wayne. And immediately Alfred's gears start running and he's like, oh, how old is Thomas here? He's like mid-60s. He's kind of gruff. He's a angry man. And it's like, okay, if he's upstairs, he's looking for my Batman, and we're going to let them do what they got to do. And so we cut over to that, I want to say conversation, but it's not. This is all narrated from the perspective of Dick Grayson. He says he heard about this secondhand, so he doesn't have exactly what was said, but we see Thomas unmasking in front of Bruce unmasking in front of Thomas, and they stand looking at each other for a minute. And apparently it was a really good talk. So cut back over to the rest of the Earth 2 heroes. They've made their way into a city where there is a red and blue Superman fighting against some other group. I don't recognize it. It's a Supergirl with black hair, I guess, but they're running around just like, okay, this is all crazy. There's a battle up there. We don't want to get pulled into it. I'm not really sure what we could do. But as they walk around the fight, they see a bunch of bodies of just normal civilians, and apparently they like had a flag up to say that they were surrendering. And Yolanda takes this really personally. She's like, no, my God, we must stop Telos because it's his fault that these people got murdered to begin with. And Alan's basically like, yep, you're right. We must swear that we will protect them. So Bruce and Thomas come back down to the Batcave. Bruce hands Grayson a high tensile suit thing and the keys to the Batmobile over to Thomas. And Dick really wants to drive the Batmobile, but he's like, nah, that's not going to happen, kid. So Alfred points out, excuse me, would you like some Earl Grey tea? And he's like, how did you know I liked Earl Grey tea? And Alfred chuckles to himself as Thomas and Bruce share one last little thing. And Thomas is like, I'm your dad in a different dimension. If he was anything like me and all that, he'd be proud of you. And Bruce is like, save it for the road, buddy. So we then see they approach another version of some city. We see them pick up a Court of Owls mask, saying that it looks like it happened so long ago. And then all of a sudden there's some laser drones from Telos that are attacking some guy who's trying to run out through the wasteland. The superheroes take out the bot and they grab the guy saying, hey, what's up? Who are you? What's going on? And he says, hi, my name is Deimos, and I know how to get off this planet. Your arrival has been foreseen by my seers. So, yeah. And let me tell you, this guy looks trustworthy as all hell with his goatee and skulls on his knees and giant collar. Golly, so trustworthy. All right. Mild nitpicks, very tiny things. The entire intro to this book did not happen. What do I mean by that? Well, over in Earth 2 World's End, where the events of Dick Grayson putting his son on the ship didn't happen a damn thing like that. I don't know where the hell they're getting this story from of the front of the line with a priority code and then someone saw the kid and took him in. No, it was Barda, who was evil, who picked up the kid at Dick Grayson's request, and she was like, nah, I don't want him, but like did it anyway. There was nothing about this priority. See, I don't know where this is coming from. It's a retcon after 3 weeks. That happened 3 weeks ago. You can't just turn around and say, oh, actually, it happened this way now. No. Also, Val Zod, 100% a pacifist. That's always been his thing. Like, he'll fight in, like, absolute defensive measures, but, like, This is him just unloading on Telos for no reason, and it feels against character. So, all suffice to say, I don't think anyone read Earth 2 World's End. I think I'm the only one. So I'm going to go ahead and say this issue is not the worst thing. I do like the concept of Thomas and Bruce meeting from these alternate timelines, and it's just kind of a, yeah, let's sort out our stuff real quick. But it's done really poorly. I get the poetic nature of, like, whatever we write here will never be good enough that you would understand the moment. But, like, try to do it. Just give me something, you know? Yeah, it's probably sitting around like a 6.5 for me, if not a little lower, but I'm going to say 6.5. This book is not a long series. It's 9 issues. I feel, well, it's 8 issues, I think, and then the 0 issue. Regardless, I feel like it has the chance to do something good from this point out still. It has the ability to, but I don't think it's going to capitalize. But we'll see when we get there. So for this, 6.5. Convergence Catwoman #1, written by Justin Gray, art by Randall. So this is the 0-hour version of Catwoman. And we're all set in Metropolis here, so Catwoman busts in through a skylight and immediately is attacking this gang that has taken an heiress hostage. And this is before the dome has come down, and she is attacking them specifically because she wants to get some jewels off the heiress. And this is, I guess, just the easiest way of doing it. So she attacks the members who all have, like, roller derby gear as their thing, and as she takes all of them out by breaking a giant aquarium and having it flood the place, she's like, well, I guess I saved you. You can thank me by handing me that nice necklace of yours. But the heiress is like, you ruined my shoes. You get nothing. And that's when security comes in, and she's like, all right, well, this isn't going according to plan. Bye now. And she gets out of there, and she's upset about that. But as she's thinking about it, the dome suddenly generates. And unlike any other time we've seen dome coming down on a city, this one slices through buildings, causing massive explosions and death because of where the dome just happened to land. So we cut to 1 year later. We have a roving militia gang thing going on, and they're all looking around just like, yeah, let's go hunt some people. It's the most fun thing to do here after the dome came down. And they all say, well, what about Catwoman? She's been staking this territory in suicide slums. And they're like, pshaw, she's just a hot chick. What can she do? To which point she shows up and says, how about this? And they're all wearing night vision goggles, so she throws a flashbang, completely blinds them, and then starts taking them all out. And it's not really even much of a fight, but she does point out, I haven't been doing this crime fighting thing for very long, but I did go up against Batman, so I have the best training, I guess you could say. And as she takes out all those guys and says that the slum is under her protection, a whole bunch of people come out of hiding and say like, yeah, thanks Catwoman, you're the best. And we get this priest, reverend character who's like, oh, let's get these men to the hospital. We can't let them die. And then this large guy steps up and be like, we should take their guns, you know, for protection. And the priest is like, no, we don't do that. We're not going to do that. We then cut over to, I'm blanking on his name. They say it later on, Mannheim. Bruno Mannheim. That's it. He apparently took over Intergang, or was already in charge of it, and when the domes came down, he saw the immediate power vacuum that he could fill in, where he realized that money was going to be worthless and things like medicines was going to be the absolute highest priority. So he and his inner gang took all of the scientists and doctors and anyone who could manufacture medicine and just kidnapped all of them, and is now running the only medical whatever in Metropolis. Totally, quote-unquote, legal, but, like, it's what he's doing. We see that there's a guy who failed him who's stealing drugs, and so Mannheim explains this whole thing to him and then tosses him into a giant open-top tank of piranhas and says, oh, you're not going to fail me again, not here in Metropolis. So Catwoman at this point, she's going around, swinging on her whip around Metropolis, and she's like, yeah, it's kind of nice that humanity more or less figured itself out. Like, under the dome, we could have gone into raving bands of lunatics, but we kind of made it all work here, except most recently, Mannheim jacked up the prices on all of his meds, and therefore people are not able to pay them, and people are dying because of it. So Catwoman is breaking into Mannheim's, bunker, whatever you want to call it, a big building he controls, and he's specifically looking for one woman who apparently was kidnapped that Catwoman had some sort of deal with. So we see her sneaking around till she finds the woman, and it's just like, all right, well, now I'm here to get her back. And she throws in this, EMP, probably. Knocks out a few lights, gets up into the room, and she's like, all right, everybody remain calm, I'll be out here in 2 minutes. And she grabs hold of a woman named Sally and says, hey, are you good with heights? And she's like, better than being shot at. So they climb up the side of the building with a grappling rope. They're being shot at by Mannheim's men. Eventually they get up to the top, and at that moment is where Telos does his thing. Citizens, the dome's coming down and y'all gotta fight. And at that point, Mannheim looks up and he's like, all right, get all the guns ready, let's get prepared for war. And in comes, just with no warning, the Kingdom Come version of Batman to come fight Catwoman. And she's like, of course it had to be Batman. The art feels like really house standard for, like, I want to say early 2000s. I don't know if they're trying to harken back to the art style of the 0 hour mid-90s period, or if this is just the artist's style, but it feels very old school. In terms of the writing, I mean, it's fine. I don't think there's anything that really stands out that much in terms of great or bad. It just feels mostly like setup of, we need to introduce you of what was Catwoman doing around this time, how she is as a character now, what the hell is in her gang, why we should care about that, and then I'm sure we're going to get another 5 pages of, can we get a brief introduction on Kingdom Come Batman as well. So, yeah, it just feels like a more basic story to me. I think I'm probably going to say this one is a 6. Nothing fantastic, not awful either. It's just kind of exactly what you need to fill out an entire month worth of issues. Convergence, Green Arrow #1, written by Christy, Marx, art by Rags Morales. So we are opening in the 0 hour timeline in Metropolis. Green Arrow is driving down the road, and this is well after the dome has fallen. He's on a motorcycle, and he hears gunshots down the street, and he's like, well, I'm in the city, may as well help. And so he goes down, and he sees a man just firing his gun into the air, saying, stupid dome, and as Green Arrow approaches, he's like, hey man, you can't shoot bullets up in the sky, they come back down. To which it's apparent that this man is drunk, he's super belligerent, and he pulls the gun and aims it at his own head, to which point Green Arrow shoots it out of his hand. So, as he's, falling over drunk, he's like, oh yeah, look up there, you see any stars out there? Before we came in here, I was an astronomer. What am I supposed to do as an astronomer if I can't see the stars? This is stupid. And Green Arrow's just like, okay, you sleep it off, buddy. You'll be okay. You just stay here. And he talks about how life is in the dome, how, there's no morning, there's no sunrise or anything like that. It gets light, it gets dark, but there's no seasons, there's nothing like that. It just is. And it's been like that for a year now. And the scientists, first few weeks, they were all like, yes, we've done all these readings and stuff on the dome. We have all this information as to what it's made of and how advanced it is. And then after the few weeks, it's just like, we got nothing. We're trapped in a dome. Bye all. So we see sometime later, the next morning, I guess, a bunch of racists are chasing down this family because their skin color is the wrong color. And as they're about to beat them up because they are living in the wrong neighborhood, in comes a bunch of arrows. But they're not Green Arrow's arrows. They belong to this strange man who is dressed as like a monk. And he's like, hey, it's your kind that's not welcome here. And as the racists then turn on him because he is of darker skin color, he just takes them all out one by one. And he's like, yep, nope, you get out of here. You got no reason to be here at all. And as the family thanks him for helping, it's like, but they chase us out. They know where we live. We can't go back there now. And he says, hey, come with me. I've got a place you can stay. It's a sanctuary. By the way, my name is Connor Hawk. And the place is called Ashram. So he leads them down the streets. And as they do so, the young boy of the family finds one of the arrows and says, hey, it's one of your arrows, mister. And he's like, oh, this isn't one of my arrows. This is the green arrow. He's here inside the dome. Hooray! So then we cut over to the racist group who apparently has a meeting place here despite being under the dome. And they're basically like, you know, the whole racist bit. They're just like, oh, yeah, that guy who attacked us was brown. Let's get him. And everyone's like, yeah, let's do it. So we then go over to Connor on top of the roof. And he's like, I can't believe it. Green Arrow's here. This is perfect. I've been waiting for this moment. I've saved these flares for a while. I'm going to find him. I'm going to get him here. And everything's going to be great. And all of a sudden, a woman comes up and says, hey, you better get downstairs. We're being attacked. There's a bunch of racists out there. And he's like, you hold the door. I'll be there in 5 minutes. And she's like, what do you got there? Those look like fireworks attached to your arrow. I don't think it's really going to scare them away that much. And he's like, oh, no, it's not to scare them. I'm sending for help. So he says he has to fire these in the perfect fashion to make it work the way he wants to. And he fires them up in the air as the racists are entering the building. And then we cut to Green Arrow, who looks up in the sky and sees that the flares have formed a perfect green arrow pointing down at a building. And he's like, well, I think that's meant for me. So he drives his way over there. We see all the racists are trying to bust their way in. And Connor comes down, starts firing off arrows to keep them away from the inside. And then Oliver's outside firing from the outside, doing like flashbangs and bigger things like that. So the racists run off. Connor comes out. He's like, I knew you'd come. Green Arrow, I can't believe it. You're down here. And he's like, was that your thing up in the sky? He's like, yeah, Green Arrow for a Green Arrow. He's like, yeah, it's impressive. What's going on, man? What's going on? He's like, oh, you're my hero. I've done everything to imitate you. I trained my archery to be an archer like you. He's like, cool. What's the name of this place? He's like, oh, it's Ashram. And he's like, oh, I knew an ashram. It was out in California. He's like, right? Yeah, that's where I was raised. But then I was left with this building in Metropolis. And as I came down here, Dome fell. So now I've been taking in people as a refuge. Why are you in Metropolis, Green Arrow? He's like, oh, I came here looking for someone. And immediately Connor's like, it was me. You were looking for me. And she's like, I don't know you, man. Calm down. I have no idea what's going on. And he's like, no, but I'm Connor. I'm Connor Hawk. And Oliver's like, I still have no idea what that is. Who are you? And Connor says, Dad, it's me. My mother was Sandra Hawk, Moon Day. And immediately Oliver's brain just clicks. And he's like, wait a minute. Moon Day? Did you say Dad? What's going on around here? So yeah, he immediately feels guilty. He's like, oh, it was so long ago. I didn't think. And Connor's like, I have so much to talk to you about. I always knew I'd meet you one day. And Oliver immediately like, this isn't going to work. Yeah, look, I'm barely even a hero here. I'm definitely not the father type. And Connor's like, oh, this is destiny. It's just roll with it. It's super great. You have so much to teach me about archery. And he's like, nah, I'm going to go. To which point, Connor's like, what? Is it because of my skin color? And he's like, what? No, I'm not a racist. Why do you think I'm a racist? That's not it at all. Look, I abandoned your mother, and I thought that she just wanted cash, and so I gave it to her, and now I feel awful about that. So you shouldn't have to be around me because I'm such a prick. And Connor's like, so you're just going to keep being a prick to atone for the fact that you were a prick? That doesn't make a lot of sense. And at that point, Telos comes over the intercom. Hey, everybody, domes are coming down. Get ready to fight. And as it comes down, they see that they are not on Earth. They're able to see the outside now. And Connor's like, wait, hold on. I've got binoculars. Let's see what's going on. And as they look down, they see people trying to leave. They're all flooding the streets on bikes and walking and whatever they can. And Oliver's like, we have to go out there and try to stop them, make sure they don't get hurt. But as they are standing there, they all of a sudden get teleported to an unfamiliar city street. And they're like, what just happened? All the streets are now quiet. This isn't right. I've never heard it so quiet before. And as they turn the corner, they come across an alternate version, I'm assuming Kingdom Come, of Dinah Lance and a different canary, a different black canary who says dad when seeing Oliver. So I'm unfamiliar with the Kingdom Come story. I don't know who that is. I assume it's someone that's the daughter of Oliver and Dinah. So cool, I guess. I feel like this one kind of requires you to know a bit more about pre-Zero Hour like time stuff of exactly what Oliver was doing and Connor Hawke and all that sort of stuff, because it's still not really that lodged into continuity, and I don't feel like they do a great job of explaining what's going on here either. For those fans, I'm sure it really works, but for me, I'm sitting here like, okay, who? What's happening? So yeah, I think it's probably going to be a 6.5 for me. It's not bad writing. I just don't think I'm aware of what it is we're talking about. It's kind of like it feels like issue like 4 of a miniseries, and I've just missed the first 3 issues. And that's not to say that I'm dropped in the middle of the plot without notes going on. I understand the plot. It's just the setting. I don't know what's going on in the setting here. So 6.5. Hopefully we can get a better explanation as to who the hell the Canaries are. Convergence Justice League International #1, written by Ron Marz, art by Mike Manley. So we're opening in the 0 Hour timeline of Metropolis, where Metallo is just marching down the street saying, "Hey, Metropolis, there are no more superheroes. All of them have lost their powers. You need control. You need to be ruled. Metallo will take that charge." And he starts attacking with a bunch of other Metallo bots that start attacking the people. And almost as soon as they start attacking, in comes Justice League International, which consists of Blue Beetle, Red Tornado, Martian Manhunter, Captain Atom, Fire, and Ice. However, out of those, none of them have their powers, except for Red Tornado, who's a robot, so technically it wasn't powers to begin with. But Blue Beetle's leading the charge. He's like, yeah, Justice League of International, except kind of just Metropolis, because we're trapped under a dome. Anyway, everyone, go in, stop the Metallos. So Captain Atom's just got guns, same with Fire and Ice, they do what they can. Martian Manhunter does still have some raw strength to him, but he doesn't have the ability to like phase or fly or anything like that. Red Tornado is still able to fly around and has whirlwind abilities. So Metallo locks on to Blue Beetle, and he's like, "Oh, hey, you won't be alive long enough to stop me. Your powers are gone. You have nothing you can do. Technology holds the day now." To which Blue Beetle says, "Yeah, that's why I'm shining, man." And so he pulls something out of his pocket and basically just tases Metallo, knocks him out cold. And he's like, "I've had a year in my workshop to just fiddle about and do what I need to do. You think I wouldn't have something against you, bro?" So he takes out Metallo, but unfortunately Metallo has already attacked his bug significantly, and it's got some major damages where there's not a lot of the ability to import things to fix it when you're stuck under a dome. So as everyone comes up, they're like, yeah, I broke my arm. It's no big deal. I'm more concerned about the bug here. It's a big problem. You guys go take care of Metallo, get him to a location that he's not going to cause more problems. And in comes this little man who's like, "Excuse me, sir, Blue Beetle, Beetle Man, you're destroying my shop. Why are you do this?" And he's like, "Hey, I didn't want to do that. I was defending. I was doing my best. We're living in a different world now." And he's like, "We don't have any materials to fix this stuff." And he's like, yeah. But he makes the point of saying, yeah, it's a different world, one without any real heroes left. So we cut back to the HQ, and we see Blue Beetle's basically giving a sitcom. He's like, "All right, yes, I have a broken arm. Let's move on. What does everybody else got going on?" And Martian Manhunter's like, "Metallo's in custody. Star Labs is taking all the Metallo bots and scrapping them for parts." Captain Atom's like, "Should we go over the rest of the stuff? Because like the list keeps getting longer of things that we should be doing, and we're not." And Fire's like, "Screw it. We're wiped after that fight today. We'll do it tomorrow. No big deal." And Blue Beetle's like, "Well, someone needs to watch comms. Fire, sounds like you're volunteering." To which point Ice says, Nah, I'll do it. No big deal." So At that point, everyone starts retiring, getting some rest, and Fire's like, "You coming to bed, Ted?" And he's like, in a little bit, I'm going to work on the bug. And she's like, "Well, you know where to find me." And Martian Manhunter's like, "You want some help, man?" And he's like, "Whoa, with her? Jesus, man, I can barely handle her on my best days, but I don't think I really need your help on that." And he's like, I meant with the bug, Ted." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, totally." So they go down, you see that the bug is, on a bunch of scaffolding, doing what he can to fix it. And he's like, "Yeah, I don't even know where to start on repairs. We don't have any ability to, really fix this up. It might take a bit, too much to do this, not make it really worth it." And Martian Manhunter basically makes the point of, "Hey, look, I get, going out fighting these guys, but shouldn't we be a bit more proactive? Shouldn't we go out and try to solve these things, try to get out from under the dome and whatnot?" And Ted basically says, "We tried. We tried at the beginning and it didn't work, and now we just have to make do with the situation we have here." That's the purpose of what they're doing here, is basically peacekeeping. To which Martian Manhunter says, "Well, I think we should be more proactive. I think we should go out and try to actually stop these things and try to get out of our situation here." And Ted points out, "Look, we don't have our powers. We don't have anything like that. There's only so much we can do, and we don't have even a person to punch here. There's not always something you can punch and make it better." So at that point, Ice comes in and says, "Hey, you guys need to get to the roof. Something's going on." And it's Telos saying his bit, "Hey, everybody, domes are down. Go out and fight." And as they're looking at it, they're just like, "Okay, what the hell does that even mean?" To which point, Martian Manhunter's like, "Oh my God, I feel a surge of power. My powers are back." And then Fire's powers come back, and Ice powers come back, and Captain Atom turns back into Captain Atom. And immediately he's like, "Let's go cause some real damage." And Blue Beetle's like, "Guys, what are you talking about, real damage? Do you seriously consider going and fighting the people that the big disembodied voice in the sky said to fight? That doesn't sound like a good idea." And they're like, "Why not? We got to be able to save Metropolis and everybody in it. Voice said we got to go fight someone to do that. I think that's exactly what we should do." And Blue Beetle's like, "We are not puppets. We are not going to be told what we need to do here. Come on, guys. Seriously, can we just think this through? We don't even know who Telos is. We have to find another way." And as he says that, this giant shadow descends on Metropolis, landing on the Daily Planet. And inside, we see the silhouettes of a very dark-looking Justice League. And as they land, we see it's Wonder Woman, Shazam, Obsidian, Nightshade, Jade, Huntress, Blue Beetle, and Creeper, all from the Kingdom Come universe. And they say, "All right, if we're going to defend our city, we got to kill this city. Toot sweet. So let's take out the Justice League here." And they literally, our Justice League International can see them saying this across the way. And it's like, well, they brought some heavy hitters and doesn't seem like they're here to chat. So he just rips off his cast off his arm and just like, "Let's go fight." So yeah, that's that. I like it. I think this is one of my favorites out of this week, or at least this 0 hour time period, just because I like the idea of this group being so antsy. You've had the people who are like, "Oh, I want to get out of here. I want to go out and be able to escape the dome." But I feel like this is the first one where it's, I just want to punch something. I just need to punch something. And all of these threats that have been around are barely even threats. And so now they're facing something and they actually have their powers back. They want to do this. So I kind of appreciate it in that way. It gives a good dichotomy with Blue Beetle as well, where he's the one guy who obviously wasn't depowered at all. He had his tech the whole time. So it made sense for him to be like, let's think of another way here, guys. It's not what we should be doing. Yeah, no, it's an interesting story pitch. I'm not sure how I feel about the Kingdom Come guys coming in. Maybe that'll be an interesting fight, but I feel like once you get Wonder Woman and Shazam, they're on the team. It doesn't even matter who the rest of them are. International's going down. So, yeah, I think I'm going to say this one is I'll give it a 7. I think it's actually worth the 7 on this. Convergence Suicide Squad #1, written by Frank Tieri, art by Tom Mandrake. So this issue opens up after everything, end of issue 2, Amanda Waller bleeding out on the ground with Kingdom Come Green Lantern standing over her, basically saying, "I'm sorry it had to end this way, Waller." And Waller's just like, "I don't blame you. You did what you had to do. It's no big deal. However, I do blame him. And we point to some shadowy figure off screen. And she's like, I should have known better to trust you. And the figure pulls out a gun and says blam as he says, yep. So we cut back 48 hours earlier. And we're in some sort of fancy dining restaurant with Captain Boomerang and Deadshot. And they're meeting up with someone who apparently has got a contract for them. They're saying like, oh man, I love these. This fancy restaurant has real pork. It's great to be able to taste real meat here after everything that's happened. And it's $500 a plate, but we're the richest men in Gotham, or Metropolis, so whatever. And as they're sitting here, it turns out that the person that they're meeting with is Toyman. And Toyman says, all right, you're really going to make me say this stuff again? I already gave you the plans over the phone. He's like, no, humorous, say it. He's like, I want you to find and kill Superman. To which point Deadshot and Captain Boomerang are like, yeah, no problem. Ever since the domes came down, nobody has superpowers. So wherever Superman is in Metropolis, he's just a guy. Meanwhile, me and Deadshot have our stuff, our tech, and therefore we are the deadliest people in Gotham. And Toyman's just like, yeah, sure, whatever. And they point out, like, look over there. You see that guy over there at that table? Totally normal looking dude, schmoozing up with a woman. That's Atomic Skull. But he doesn't have his powers right now, so he's just another guy. You would be going trying to suck up to him if you had his powers, but you don't. So you're sucking up to us, and now we get to set the prices on whatever we want. And Toyman's like, all right, fine, whatever. So he opens up a briefcase. It's full of like $1 million. And they're like, awesome, fantastic. Let's get the waiter over here for a bubbly. And then all of a sudden, Telos comes over the intercom. Hey, everybody, domes are coming down. Get ready to fight. And Atomic Skull just is like, oh, look at that. I'm Atomic Skull again. Isn't that great? And Toyman just grabs the briefcase and be like, well, gentlemen, seems like this is now the time for me to pivot. And Deadshot's like, nope. Turns out I still get to murder someone. It's just someone else. And he shoots Toyman in the head, grabs the briefcase, and him and Boomerang just skedaddle. And they're like, well, I think our time at the top has ended. And I also think we're going to get a call from Auntie Waller at some point here. So we cut over to Waller, who's hearing the whole Telos speech over some intercoms. We also have Barbara Gordon Oracle there, who's running the computers. And she's like, okay, all right. You getting all this? And Oracle's like, yeah, there's a celebrity death match to determine the fate of our world. That's what's going on here. And Gordon points out there are tons of other cities on this planet. They're all reaching out like crazy. And we get Carol Ferris over the comms saying, hey, you probably already guessed, but General Lane wants to see you, Waller. So Sam Lane calls him Waller and says, all right, the dome's coming down. You need to get someone who's able to fight off another city. We already did some recon on them. We're calling them the Kingdom Come universe. I'm like only halfway joking here. They literally call it something very similar to that. We're calling it Operation Kingdom Come. There you go. And it's like, yeah, they're all older, but because of that, they're also more powerful and more wise. Your main target, the one we need you to take down, is Green Lantern Alan Scott, because in this reality he merged with his power battery and he's able to make a giant floating city above his dome now called New Oa, which A, is a base of operations for the heroes, but B, allows it so that we can't sneak up on them. So you need to take him out first and foremost so that we have a chance at taking out the rest of their city. And Waller's like, all right, fine. But, you know, I'm going to have to get a good team set up here. And he's like, all right, yeah, totally. And that's where Carol Ferris comes up and says, I'm in. Ever since the dome came down, I am now able to control my Star Sapphire half. And so she transforms and she's like, yeah, and I can take on a Green Lantern. That's my whole thing. And so they go down and say, all right, who else we got? And they show underneath of the building they're in, like in under heavy chains, is Bane, Black Manta, and Deathstroke, all of whom are very angry and wanting to get out. The normal Suicide Squad has apparently all been contacted. They're ready to go. We got Count Vertigo, Deadshot, Poison Ivy, Captain Boomerang, and Bronze Tiger. To which point, Waller's like, well, how did they handle the news? And then Deadshot just tries shooting at the glass right where Waller's standing. And of course, it's bulletproof, but he makes his point. But then he's like, actually, I got the coup de grace for you. There's one more thing that we got that's going to make this team an absolute winner. And they step into the next room, and they have Cyborg Superman, Hank Henshaw. And immediately he's like, This dude murdered Coast City. All of Coast City is dead because of them. I don't think I can control this level of crazy. I'm not sure about him. And Sam's like, you're taking him. This is absolutely non-negotiable. He has gone toe-to-toe with Green Lanterns and won. He's absolutely our ace in the hole. You're taking him. So at that point, she's like, all right, I've already got Oracle on it. She's already pulling some strings for what we need in the background, and we'll take the case. And we cut over to Oracle, seeing what she's doing. She's actually contacted someone in the Kingdom Come City and is trying to make a deal with them. And basically, the person on the other side's like, well, why should I trust you? Like, I'm clearly not the heroic type. And they're like, yeah, exactly. You're not the heroic type. And that's what we need for you to betray your own city and work with us to take it down. To which it's very, very quickly shown via multiple logos and stuff like that. This is the Lex Luthor of Kingdom Come universe. And he says, yeah, I've had so many schemes, I may as well just see the city burn now. So he puts on his big gold ring and he's like, yep, I'll join you guys. And that's where we leave off. That's it. All right. Major plus in this issue. They just do a full exposition dump of like, what is Kingdom Come? Like, for anybody who just happens to not know what Kingdom Come is, this is them saying, here you go. Here's a backstory. It's older people, and here's what Green Lantern's power set is and why exactly he's a threat. Perfect writing in that regard. I appreciate that so deeply because it really does make all the difference in me saying, who the hell is this guy and why should I care about him? I mean, don't get me wrong. I get that Green Lantern would be a threat in most continuities to most people. He's got a magic ring, but this defines why he needs an entire massive team to take him down. He's that much more powerful. So I really like that as a writing choice. As for the rest of it, the art style looks pretty good. I like the setup of Deadshot and Boomerang having like a little bit extra going on, just saying like, yeah, we were making money because we're basically the top assassins in the entire city. And then they immediately recognize, oops, not anymore. Time to leave, and they see their exit, and they know they're back on the bottom. It's good writing. So I'm going to say this is actually, I'm going to say it's probably an 8. It's like a Convergence 8, which on a normal ranking scale is probably close to like a 7.5 or lower, but I'm enjoying this particular issue, the little in media res look ahead at the beginning, all of it, I'm giving it an 8. Convergence Superboy #1, written by Fabian Nicieza, art by Carl Moline. So we open up in Cadmus Labs, underneath wherever the dome is still down, and we see Superboy being zapped with radiation, and he's screaming out in pain. And we see that we got a whole bunch of people here that I assume are normal characters in Superboy's continuity. Double X and some woman here that I don't think actually gets a name. Serling, maybe? But as Double X is saying, hey, power it down, stop it right now, we get the narration for him saying, for 10 months we've been hitting him with solar radiation, trying to trigger his abilities to function again, and nothing's working. He's absorbing the radiation, but like, he's not super powered, and we don't know why. And Superboy's like, guys, did it work this time, guys? Am I a superhero again? And they look at the charts and it's like, nah, you're still just a normal dude. Like, it's something to do with the dome. That's all we know, is that the dome is affecting you for some reason. And Superboy's like, that's not good enough. Like, we don't even know if we're on Earth. The Metropolis is going to need some protecting. Superman's not there. They're going to need me soon enough. And they're like, okay, sorry, like we'll keep working at it. And as he storms out, they're like, yeah, no, he's absorbed it, but like the dome is the one that's blocking it, and we can't do anything about the dome. And Double X is like, yeah, like there's a bunch of people who would have the ability to make this sort of dome that can like keep us alive despite it. Brainiac, Krona, Darkseid, but like all of them would have shown up to gloat by now. So I don't know who's doing this. And so we see Con-El going down the streets, and he's just a normal dude. And Double X is still narrating, saying like, The only thing worse than a kid with omnipotent power is a kid who had it and then lost it. Like, he had all this ability and he lost it right as he was starting to get the depth of his responsibilities, and the city spurned him because of his arrogance, and they were just starting to accept him, and now look at what happened. So as he's remembering like how the city was saying like, where's Superman, Doomsday, all that sort of stuff. He's going down the street. There's a guy selling snow globes as dome globes, to which Connell calls him out, and he's like, what are you, the cops? Get out of here. And so he walks his way over into the park. He comes up to the statue of Superman that was put up. And this old couple comes up and says, oh, look, there he is. It's Superman. Have you ever seen him in real life, kid? And Connell's like, no, I haven't. And he's like, oh, well, he rescued us one time. It was great. It was a purple absorbing monster. And he's like, yeah, that was Parasite. And he's like, oh, so you do know him. All right. Anyway, bye. And they say like, oh, if only everyone was as cool as Superman. So then Talos gets over the comms. Hey, everyone, Dome's coming down. Get ready to fight. And immediately Connell, after being blasted with radiation for so long, just his powers immediately come back. X-ray vision flying up in the air. He's like, awesome. And so he rips off his shirt, has the Superman underneath it, puts on his leather jacket, calls it a day. And as he's flying through the city, everyone's like, look, it's a bird. It's a plane. No, wait, it's just some kid. And he's like, God damn, I'm Superboy. Come on, guys. But as he's flying across town, we see a shadowy figure is watching him, saying like, oh, I've spotted our opponent. I'll lead him away from populated areas. And another person's like, yep, well, lure him towards Hell's Gate. And we see the blur go by on the ground that looks exactly like the Flash running. And Superboy is like, is that Wally? Double X, are you there? And Double X, the captain has got a drone just flying right next to Superboy, like, yeah, we're monitoring you after the dome fell. We figured this would happen. I'm like, nah, monitor him. Is that Wally? Was Wally in Metropolis? And they're like, don't know. He's running too fast for us to get a clear shot. And he's like, well, that guy looks like he's wearing a bowl on his head. I don't think that was Wally. But we see that Wally's leading them, or quote unquote Wally, is leading Connell over to Hell's Gate Island, which basically has been unlivable because it got cut in half by the dome coming down. So as they're led over onto that side, he sees some movement inside of one of the storefronts. He goes in saying like, oh, I got him. And then he's hit by a kryptonite gas grenade. And he's like, what? Who could have done this? And in kicks Red Robin from the Kingdom Come universe. And Double X and them are scanning and just like, oh, my telepathic abilities have returned and I'm sensing something that's familiar but different. And so Connell starts getting hit by Red Robin. And he's like, hey, stay down, Superboy. There's no reason for a fight. And he's like, you're the one who kicked me. Also, the kryptonite gas is wearing off. And he uses his TK telekinetic abilities to blow the ground up underneath Red Robin. And then as he goes for a wind-up punch, the Flash comes in, grabs him, manages to put him off to the side. So Flash and Red Robin work together, and Superboy's like, who the hell are you guys? Like, what's going on? Double X manages to figure out that the guy in the hood is Dick Grayson, but he looks like 15 years older than the Dick Grayson that's on file. So Double X immediately probes into minds and says, okay, they're from an alternate Earth. It's got a whole bunch of mistrust and stuff like that, but the thing they hate the most on Kingdom Come Earth is young, irresponsible heroes. For the love of God, Superboy, they're going to kill you. And so Superboy tries to lunge after Flash. It ain't going hot. And so he decides to use his super breath to blow them both out of the building. And once they're down on their backs on the ground, he uses his tactile telekinesis to literally destroy like 10 buildings all in a row like dominoes. All the debris comes crashing down on top of them. And so there's not much they can do. They're knocked out. And as Superboy approaches, some heat vision comes out of the sky. And they're like, oh God, it's a second Kryptonian. He comes from a world with so much loss and turmoil. He had to fight against his own kind. He has no patience for someone like Superboy. And from up in the sky comes a voice saying, like, young man, if you want to save 2 metropolises, you will forfeit this fight now. And I would do the same without a second's hesitation. So the question is, are you a Superman or a Superboy? And we see Kingdom Come Superman looking awfully pissed as Superboy just smiles and goes, let's find out. All right, in terms of the actual like setup of the fight of like A versus B, this feels the best to me. I like this idea of you've got Kingdom Come Superman, who Again, I don't know the story of Kingdom Come that well, but I do know it well enough to know that Superman did not like the way that the youngins were doing things, of their edginess and their extreme and whatnot. And you put that dude up against leather jacket wearing Superboy, oh God, it's a bloodbath waiting to happen. And it makes sense. I think that's the thing, is that it makes the most sense as a matchup, not just from, oh, this would be a fun thing to see, but like from a matchup perspective, this makes sense. So yeah, I'm going to say this is a... Writing-wise, it's a little bit weak for me. Art-wise, it's of the era, but it's still iffy. But just the concept of it, I have so much promise in it. Hopefully it'll deliver in the second half. But for this particular issue, I think I'm going to say it's a 7. Convergence Aquaman #1, written by Tony Bedard, art by Cliff Richards. So we open up in Metropolis, and the dome is down. It's been down for a while, and we see a man and a woman walking through a dark alleyway, and the woman's like, "We're gonna get jumped," and the guy's like, "We're in a dome. Why would anybody commit crime underneath a dome? Like, we get everything for free, power, water, all that. Who would be committing crimes?" To which a criminal comes out and says, "I do it because it's fun. Give me your wallets." And as soon as he says so, in swings on a grappling hook a shadowy figure, and he picks him up, brings him up to a nearby fire escape, and they're like, "Oh my God, was that Batman?" And they see him better in the light, and they say, "No, it's the guy who talks to fish." And you see Aquaman like, "Oh, come on, guys." And so he tells the mugger, he's like, "You're going to walk to the nearest police and you're going to confess. Got it?" And he's like, yeah, whatever you want. And everyone's like, "Aquaman, there's something wrong with that guy, isn't there?" And everyone's like, "Shush, you might hear you. Get away." And Aquaman's like, "Yeah, all right, maybe I wasn't ready for this. Maybe this is a bit too much too soon." And then we get a little bit of backstory, which is the dome comes down. There were a bunch of heroes in Metropolis at the time or whatever, and we see the JLI, all that sort of stuff. And as they were doing that, it's like, yeah, well, the spotlight today is on the one who was farthest away from home at the time, and that's Aquaman. He was in Metropolis for whatever reason, far away from the ocean. He showed up and he was missing a hand, and no one knows how he lost it. No one knows what's up. But he stayed out in the Metropolis Bay right up until he defeated a giant monster called Chemo, which, great for us, however, it ended up basically turning the entire Metropolis Bay into a biohazard area, and Aquaman couldn't stay there anymore. So then Aquaman hijacked an aquarium. He just went in, kicked everybody out, and started doing a one-man thing. And the police surrounded the building, and it's like, yeah, he got a little bit more aggressive. Somehow, the scientists at Star Labs coaxed him out of there. They gave him a hook hand prosthetic, and some people say that he's trying to compensate. That's the word I'm looking for. Compensate for something. And as they say that on the news, he hits the TV with his hook hand, and everyone's like, "Dude, we can't just order a new TV." And he's like, sorry. So out comes a guy named Director Dane Dorrance, who's like, "Hey, why don't we take a walk, Your Majesty?" And he's like, "Don't call me Your Majesty. I'm just a guy here. I don't even have my powers, like, whatever." And it's like, "Yeah, all right, look, you don't look too good these days. What's going on, man?" And Aquaman basically tells him, like, "I don't have access to water. I'm staying hydrated, but, like, it's not Mother Ocean." And he's like, "Yeah, look, I'm not worried about your physical health. I'm worried about your mental health, because you fared better than a lot of people who lost their metahuman abilities, because your strength comes from you being naturally Atlantean, and your biology has stayed the same, but you lost your marine telepathy. And I have to imagine that being connected with all of the world's ocean life all at once and then losing that simultaneously kind of sucks. And that's probably really a mental dampener for you." And Aquaman's like, "Yeah, and you couldn't possibly imagine it." And he just slams the door in the guy's face. So he goes and then takes a shower, and he's like, "Look, the real problem is, like, yes, it's the marine telepathy, but also I haven't spoken to Mara. It's been a year. I don't know what happened to my wife. Does she know I'm alive? Is she alive? Like, all of this." And yes, ever since that day at the aquarium, it just feels like I've just been grasping at something that isn't there. And we see at that day at the aquarium, the director Dane shows up to the police and says, hey, he'll listen to me. I know him. And so he's led inside of the aquarium. And as he goes around looking around, Aquaman's like, whoever you are, you're in the wrong place. And so he hops out of a tank and he's like, hey, we met one time before. I was on a research team, a sea research team. And he's like, yeah, the Sea Devils, I remember. Now give me one reason not to toss you out of here. And he's like, cause I'm the only person in Metropolis who takes you seriously right now. And so he manages to convince Aquaman to come with him, go to Star Labs, get that stuff, and reestablish him as one of the good guys. It's almost entirely the movie Hancock. Like, word for word. So as he's standing in the shower doing that thing, the water gets cut off, and Telos booms over the intercom saying, hey, everybody, I'm lifting the dome. You got to go fight people. And as Aquaman looks up at the sky, he sees this dude in full 90s gear, like machine guns, so many straps and pouches, you wouldn't believe it. And he's like, well, I feel like that one's meant for me. So as he looks over the city, all of a sudden his marine telepathy comes back and he's like, oh God, there's not a lot of fish, but I can hear them all at once. That's crazy. So Dane comes in. He's like, hey, Aquaman, you catch all that? And he's like, yeah, totally. By the way, we're on a different planet in case you haven't noticed that. And he's like, yeah, that's for later. Anyway, you heard about the Defenders battling and all that. I saw who I was fighting and I don't know how I did it, but I know that he'll be coming for me. So at that point, we cut over to the DEO, the Department of Extra Normal Operations, and we see the director woman, whoever that is, I'm not even sure she gets a name, basically saying like, all right, give me word, what's happening? And everyone's like, oh, people all around the city have started getting their powers back. All the metahumans are back online again, and we just got an alarm that Parallax, Green Lantern Parallax, is active again. And she's like, damn it, that's the worst of all. Keep tracking him, I'm going to the armory. And as she walks out the door, she's met by dude with straps and pouches, who immediately says that his name is Deathblow. He's from the Wildstorm universe. I could tell you that without even knowing who the hell Deathblow is, but he blows this woman away, and immediately all the other people are like, what happened to our alarm? Someone should have tripped this. And he's like, nah, I took care of all of them because I'm Deathblow. I'm that awesome. So he shoots all of them dead. And as he makes his way in, he's like, oh, get me into your system and tell me about your gen actives. And they're like, Gem what? What are you talking about? And he's like, superpowers. Who has superpowers? And so he tosses the woman away. A guy goes running, and so he throws a knife into the guy's back and knocks over a fishbowl, and a little goldfish just flops around on the ground for a while. So Deathblow does a little Google search on their systems, look up all the people who have powers here. He's like, oh, you call them metahumans. That sounds stupider than gen actives. But as he looks through it, he sees Aquaman, and he's like, bingo, that's my guy, piece of cake. And as he walks out, he steps on the goldfish and lights a cigar, saying, all right, much obliged, agents. So, yeah, Deathblow. Look, I have absolutely no exposure to Wildstorm except for what has been in the New 52, and I gotta tell you, I think I remember Deathblow showing up in a Grifter comic for all of like 6 seconds, and then he's just gone. And this is about how I remember him. Yeah, I mean, I like the Aquaman setup. Because like you got this idea of he's cut off from the oceans. He doesn't have his powers or anything like that. And people at this point don't take him seriously. So what happens to him? He just loses all credibility. He just turns into a schmuck. I love that. That's a great concept. The Deathblow stuff's whatever. Like I could give less of a crap about that. But the idea of Aquaman basically having to rehabilitate his image because he has lost the aqua part of his name. Like, that really works for me. So I think, honestly, this one is going to get just an easy, I would say 8. I'll say 8. I'm going to put the little asterisks on there that Deathblow normally would lose like a point just on his own of being just this stupidly garbage-ass, quote-unquote, antagonist villain, whatever you want to call him. But the fact that he's so stupid and over the top and like steps on a goldfish on the way out, it makes it funny, and I'm just going to keep it at the 8. So, yeah, let's hope the comedy keeps up. Convergence, Shadow of the Bat, #1, written by Larry Hama, art by Philip Tan. So this is following Batman and Azrael in the 0 Hour timeline. We open up in Metropolis, where Bruce Wayne has ingratiated himself into the criminal underworld, and the criminals are beating the crap out of him because they don't buy it. They're like, yeah, you're a rich boy. What? You come here to Metropolis because Gotham's too tough for you? We don't like the fact that you're so rich. You guys always have so much money. Why would you need to turn to crime? And Bruce is basically like, how do you think we got so rich? We were able to pay off the best lawyers and keep everything on the hush-hush. That's I've always been a bad boy at heart. To which point we meet our main villain of the story. His name is Tobias Whale, and he's just a really big, gross-looking dude, and he's trying to make some money here under the dome. But he's like, oh, yes, Bruce Wayne is offering us political power instead of just muscle or money or whatever. We can use his image, but he's offering it for a hefty bribe, of course, which, yeah, that's why I'm willing to believe it, because it is all about greed. However, I don't actually believe you, so we're going to beat you up a lot until we sufficiently believe that you are telling the truth. And so Tobias introduces his newest hire, a guy named Johnny Valley, and he's like, yep, this guy's going to beat you up to a pulp. Meanwhile, me and all my other crew are going to get out of here and go take care of other business. So they head off, and it's just Johnny Valley left with Bruce. And it turns out Johnny Valley is Azrael. It's Jean-Paul Valley. And he's like, hey, what are you doing, Bruce? You messed up your back something bad. You're not good enough to be back as Batman yet. What are you doing? And Bruce is like, what are you doing in Metropolis? I'm here because we had a parallax thing going on. He was threatening to rupture space-time or whatever. And then, boom, Dome shows up. So what, were you here for the same reason? Like, and he doesn't answer, but Bruce is like, look, I need to take down Tobias Whale. I'm not as brutal as you are. I will fully admit that. But as long as we're both working this angle here, how about we work it together? And he's like, a team up? You're not going to get upset when I kill people because that's just what I do? And he's like, if we work together, maybe you won't have to kill people. That's the way I'm choosing on seeing this. But for right now, you need to make it like you convincing that you beat me up bad enough. And he's like, all right, fair enough. And so Jean-Paul just lays into Bruce, just really starts beating the crap out of him. And once he's a bloody pulp, he's like, notice I didn't punch you anywhere that would require extra healing for your back. That's because I care, Bruce. And he's like, thank you, Jean-Paul. So they get into a car, Jean-Paul's driving, and basically saying, like, all right, yeah, so all this stuff under the dome, that's why Tobias Whale's doing his thing. He is going to exploit how desperate people are. That's the big thing going on right now, and he's going to try to make money off of it. And he doesn't explore that much deeper, but he is saying that, you know, he's taking advantage of the lowly, common civilian. So when they arrive back at the place, Valley's like, yeah, no, Bruce Wayne's on the up and up. I beat him to a pulp, and he kept the same story. He's telling the truth. And everyone's like, we don't believe you still. It's just too convenient. We're not going to do that. So how about this, Bruce? In order to prove yourself, and because you have political pull, the food trucks for Metropolis take a different route every time that they are delivered. The only people who know the route are the people in City Hall. If you can get me this route so that I can intercept it and be able to steal the food and sell it to the people at a significant markup, then I will trust you. But you need to go ahead and do that. So he's like, yeah, fine, let's go. So they go to City Hall. They go to a guy named Erasmus Hall, who's the district councilman or something like that. And they're basically just threatening him. And Valley's doing most of the hard work here. But he's like, wait a minute. You're not Hasmus or whatever. You're not Erasmus Hall. You're Ernest Hall. You're this dude who was a crook and ran a pyramid scheme. And what? You just showed back up in Metropolis, changed your name, and are conning people again? You're supposed to be keeping buildings safe and buildings up to code. How many people have died because you've just been rubber stamping things? You're a bad man, Hall. You're a bad man. And he's like, please, I've got a wife and kid. And he's like, too bad. So they tell him, give him the route and they'll let him live, or they can suffer the consequences. And so he does. He gives up the route, and they return and just like, yep, totally fine. It's making its thing 2 days from now. We can make the thing. And Will's just like, awesome. Looks like you're actually on the up and up, Bruce, but I need to make sure I got one more thing that'll convince me. And he hands Bruce Wayne a gun and says, you got to go kill that guy that you just got the info from, because he could alert the authorities and he could change the route. Like, you got to make it happen. And then on the TV, it says Erasmus Hall, loving councilman, has left to his death from his office. Here's his grieving widow and child. And that's when Tobias Whale says, I'm just messing with you, Wayne. We killed him the moment you were done with talking to him. We weren't giving them the chance to talk to anybody else. So, yeah, he's a bit upset now, Bruce is, seeing the widow and child on the thing. So 2 days later, he's in his bat gear. Jean-Paul's in his Azrael suit. And he's like, all right, we have to catch him in the middle of all this in order to really throw the book at him, in order to take down his whole thing. So we have to wait for it to start to unfold before we can act. And so we see the trucks driving around the streets, and Azrael's like, all right, I'd be happy to just go kill him, but fine. If you want to try to bring him to justice, we'll see what we can do. And so he's about to leap off the building. He's like, you coming, Bruce? And he's like, I'm going to take the stairs. And he's like, okay, good luck with your back, old man. So Azrael jumps off, lands on one of the trucks. We see Tobias is in a SUV. He fires off a rocket launcher to take out the lead car. One of the trucks just swerves around it. And as it does so, predictably, the driver gets shot in the head and is immediately taken over by, it stops, and then it is put into a tow truck by another one. And they systematically stop the other trucks one by one until they're all hooked up into the trucks. And that's when Azrael jumps in. He attacks one of the truck drivers who's jumped in, and he's like, oh, what? You didn't expect me to know you were here? That's just what Batman does. And one of the other drivers named Nikki's just like, hold on, what's that up in front of me? And she sees the cape and cowl and just like, oh, what, a freak in a cape? Batman's back there. Who's this one? And she's like, wait a minute, hold on, that's Batman. What the hell's happening here? So at that point, she's willing to run into Batman. Batman just jumps onto the top of the car. She fires shots off into it, and then he just punches in and says, like, step on the brake and pull over. So at that point, Tobias Whale hops onto the truck, starting to fight against Batman, and he's like, I'm bringing you to justice, Whale. And Whale's like, no, you ain't. Bro, I'm not a clown, psycho, or anything like that. I'm willing to fight dirty. So we see him and Whale are throwing punches with each other, and Batman's basically like, okay, just shut up. You keep talking. I don't want to hear it. Just shut up. And as he's saying this, we see Azrael then makes his way up to the second truck that is being driven, and he takes Whale's man and throws him out the window underneath the tires of the other trucks, definitely killing him. And Whale sees this, and he's like, hey, Batman, I thought you didn't kill. Are you cool with that? Is that something you're actually cool with? And Batman's like, that guy doesn't answer to me. And Azrael's like, damn right, yeah, I don't. Now come here, Whale. So Batman then goes up after Batman's still fighting Whale. Azrael goes up to Nika, who still has a gun and is about to shoot Batman, manages to take her out. And as he's about to kill Nika as well, Batman's like, don't do it. Don't kill her. And he's like, who's going to stop me? And Batman pulls on his cape and says, I am. And at that exact moment, Talos comes over the comms and says, hey, everybody, Dome's coming up. Get ready to fight each other. But they're still in the middle of all this. Then we cut to the third driver of a truck, because there were 3 trucks. It's this blonde woman who then says, it's hard to maintain my cloak while time slipping. And then all of a sudden, she turns into this Rambo-looking chick and says, all right, well, I'll just let it slip, whatever. And we see that the truck, like, swerves off. It's completely gone. And Tobias and them, like, they're about to hit the edge of a cliff because the roads were giving out once the dome fell, because the dome was the only thing holding it up. So they stop just before the very end, and we're introduced to these 2 people who are talking about spatial slipping and time slipping, named Jester and Pilgrim. And they're like, well, we've been ingratiated with them for 2 days once the thing fell, because I guess they were able to time travel back 2 days? I have no idea what's going on, but regardless, Batman and Azrael are talking to each other. They knock down Whale, knock him out, and then Azrael's basically like, all right, cool, let's go fight whatever other city we need to go fight. And Batman's like, hold on, there's got to be another way. And he's like, no, we have to go kill the other city. The big voice said so. If we try to go against the rules, the big voice will punish us. It was all there. He said it all. I'm going to go beat them up now. And Batman's like, wait a minute. Did you just feel that? Reality shifted. And Azrael's like, I didn't feel a damn thing. BRB. And then we leave off with Pilgrim and whatever the name of the other one was. Okay. I don't understand a goddamn thing that happened in the end there. The opening is fine. Like, the whole thing of Azrael and Bruce, and, like, I like this idea of the team up for the sake of they've been stuck under this dome, and why not? But, like, according to the back of this, it's join forces against the team of Black Ops assassins known as Wetworks. I'm assuming this is Wildstorm. This feels like a Wildstorm thing to me. I don't know what the hell this is. And this book does nothing to inform me. So hopefully the next issue is going to have a good 2 to 3 pages of here's what Pilgrim does and here's what the other one does. Because I got no idea otherwise. Yeah, it's, I don't know. It's, I can't rate it that highly because, like, the main thrust of the issue, the thing that this entire 2-issue thing is about, doesn't make sense to me. I like the setup, but the setup is just the teaming up of Batman and Azrael. Everything else is just a mess. So I'm going to say this is probably just like a 6 to me. It's a low 6. I was going to say 5.5, but I'm going to say 6 because I really do like Philip Tan's art. He does a great job of drawing, and I appreciate it. I like it, and we'll see if I understand what the hell a wet work is coming into the next issue. Convergence, Green Lantern Parallax #1, written by Tony Bedard, art by Ron Wagner. So we open up in Metropolis, under the dome, been about a year, and Kyle Rayner comes into a police precinct, and he's like, oh, hey, I'm Kyle Rayner. Are you a new cop here? And the cop's like, yeah, I came from Animal Control. I hear that you like to visit our celebrity inmate. And Kyle's like, yeah, you know, I used to be a Green Lantern, but that lasted about 5 minutes. Now I've just got a piece of alien jewelry. And the new cop's like, hey, nobody's told me, what's this guy in prison for? And Kyle's like, oh, well, for my friend, it's probably for the best that he's in here, even if he doesn't have his superpowers, but I don't think that he should be in here. And the guy inside the cell is Hal Jordan, and he just looks absolutely miserable, and he's like, I am the man who murdered the Guardians of the Universe. And as Kyle's like, yeah, that's Hal, he used to be the Green Lantern and all that. He's the biggest hero I ever met, but also the biggest villain at this point. So Kyle's like, hey man, lighten up. Nobody even knows what planet Oa is here. Like, you don't have to keep punishing yourself like this. And he's like, okay, let me give you the Cliff Notes version, officer. Mongol nuked my town. I went to go fight him. Did not go well. And in my grief, in my anger, I tried to resurrect everybody using my ring. But I just needed more power. In order to get more power, I needed more rings. So I killed the entire Green Lantern Corps and stole their rings in order to do it. And only when the dome came down and cut off the ring's power did I suddenly realize, oopsie, I committed a genocide. And Kyle's like, hey, look, you demanded you were locked up. You've served your time. It's been a whole year. And Parallax did those things, not you. And the cop's like, what the hell is a Parallax? And he's like, it's the name he took when he put on the rings. It's all that power in the rings turned him into a thing called Parallax. It's not him, though. Parallax is a separate thing. And yeah, I saw Parallax punch out Superman and thought, oopsie, we're all going to die. But then the dome came down and suddenly none of us have our powers anymore. So yeah, he's innocent. He's sitting in here despite being totally innocent. And Hal looks up and he's just like, nah, I appreciate you coming here. I appreciate you telling me how nobody blames me, how everyone just says it's a ring, but like, I lacked the willpower to stop myself, and that was my whole thing. So I have to sit here and basically have to serve out my punishment, as much as it even isn't punishment enough. So Kyle's like, all right, I'll try to convince you tomorrow. See you for checkers. So at that point, Hal comes up to the bars. He's like, hey, my one consolation, you were a much better successor than I could have ever hoped for. And he's like, oh, you're just being silly. Anyway, see ya. And the cop stays by Hal's side and is just like, hey, man, if he's telling the truth, like, Justice League forgives you in mitigating circumstances and all that, we could probably let you go. And Hal's like, no. I murdered my friends. I deserve to be here. So Kyle leaves and he's like, yeah, like, you know, the whole city is doing okay. I wish I could just get Hal to come out here and see this, that nobody cares if he's a mass murderer or whatnot. And then he thinks about his girlfriend, Alex, who also recently, well, you know what I mean, somewhat recently has died in this. And it's like, yeah, that was the worst experience I ever had. And then Telos comes over the comms, says, hey, everybody, dome's coming down, party like it's 1980 death. And as Kyle looks up at the dome, he sees this white-haired woman he doesn't recognize, and he's like, is that who I'm supposed to fight? Who is that? I'm not even sure what's going on. But as the dome comes down, he feels his ring powering up, and it says power level 67%. He's like, that's exactly where I was at when it cut off my abilities, when the dome came on. So it's been there the whole time. I just needed some extra juice. So cool. I've got it now. And the moment he realizes, wait a minute, I've got my power back. And he looks over at the police precinct, which just explodes open, and Parallax comes up and he's like, I don't feel guilty anymore. I'm thinking clearly again. Time for me to get out there into the universe. And so he flies up. He's trying to look for stars to figure out where they're at. He can't see any. He sees all these other cities and he's like, all right, well, maybe one of those cities will have the smarts to give me the tech I require. And if not, I'll just annihilate them because screw it, I'm evil. And as he flies over, Kyle jumps in the way. He's like, yo, hey, Hal, bro, you got to stop. And he's like, I'm not Hal, I'm Parallax. And he's like, no, I'm talking to Hal. I know you're in there. I know you don't want this Parallax thing to happen again. You don't want to go on a rampage. I know you won't be able to live with it. And he sees that he's breaking through. And Hal's like, oh God, Kyle. And then all of a sudden, Kyle gets zapped by the white-haired lady. Turns out that she's fighting on behalf of a place called Electropolis, and she's got giant electric tanks on her side. So Kyle, completely out of it, goes down into the water, and Parallax is like, you stupid idiots, you haven't protected your city, you've just guaranteed its destruction. And he comes in, starts blasting all of them. He goes up to the one where the white-haired lady is. Her name is Princess Fern, and he just knocks her off of her truck, puts her on the ground, and he's just like, oh, Princess Fern, seriously? And she's like, yeah, check it out. And she uses her control over plant life to cause a plant to spring up and grab hold of Hal. And they all start zapping him with the electricity again, and he just blasts it off, and he's like, all right, you caught me off guard, but I've met a guy named Swamp Thing who could do what you're doing. He had no chance against me. There's no way you do either. So he uses his ring to grab hold of Fern. And she's telling her soldiers, kill him, shoot him, do it now. And they're like, hold on, we might hit the princess. We can't shoot. And he's like, yeah, see, your troops are a little bit smarter than you are. So tell me where your city is. And she's like, pshaw, I'm not going to do that. You're going to straight up destroy my city if I tell you. And he's like, all right, fine. And he just throws her aside and says, I'll go find your city myself. So 7 minutes pass, and we cut over to Electropolis that is trying to get all of its non-military personnel to get to their shelters, and everything's freaking out, and everyone's just like, oh, we've lost contact with the princess, and the king and queen are also out right now. We're at war, Prime Minister. What do we do? And it's like, oh, well, in the meantime, our defenses are on high alert. We'll do whatever we can. And they're saying, do you think it was a smart move for Princess Fern to do a preemptive strike? And it's just like, hey, I've seen her in combat. She's even scarier than her mother. And then all of a sudden, these guards get toasted by green energy as Parallax just comes down like hellfire itself, saying like, people of Electropolis, this is all Princess Fern's fault, but don't worry, I'll kill you quickly. So, not a good time, but here's the deal. I love it. I really like the way that they deal with the Parallax issue here of, obviously, in the 0 hour timeline, it was not yet determined that Parallax was the yellow fear entity. It was not turned into that in continuity. But they also don't outright say it isn't that here. They say Parallax is like separate from Hal, and that's fine, but it still makes it its own thing. I appreciate that. I think that's a very good touch here for keeping this in sort of a 0 hour timeline-esque manner. I like the way Kyle is personified here. The fact that he was just barely a Green Lantern. He was just starting out, and then he lost his powers because it all came to a close at 0 hour. And then I especially love that Hal Jordan is just megalomaniacal here. I love the fact that he's going around and he's like, oh, you screwed with the things I love, and now I'm going to kill you. And it's Earth 6, apparently. That's where we're playing with here. I don't think Earth 6 was ever really expanded upon outside of like a few pages in Crisis on Infinite Earths. So, okay, cool, I guess. But yeah, it's basically just going to be free reign to do whatever they want. So I'm down for it. I do really like this one. I think it's probably a 7.5 for me. And I'm looking forward to seeing if Parallax even stops. I can just see him 100% wiping the floor, and Telos is just off to the side going like, all right, cool, you're doing what I wanted you to do. A+. Convergence Supergirl Matrix #1, written by Keith Giffen, art by Timothy Green II. So, forewarning, this is the most Keith Giffen issue of anything I have ever read, including other Keith Giffen issues. The opening page is a breakdown that this is Supergirl versus Lady Quark and Lord Volt. And the title of it is Who the Hell is Lord Volt? And it's got like 7 asterisks leading to editor's notes that are just little quippy things of, yeah, we know it's stupid. What are you going to do about it? So we open up in Telos, where we're in Metropolis, and we get Supergirl, who at this point in continuity is a genetic life form blob of goo that believes it is Lana Lang and also Supergirl. And it's loyal to Lex Luthor, who's a different version of Lex, who has got like red hair and a beard. Anyway, they meet up in a park, and Lex is like, oh, everything sucks because we're stuck under this dome. Like, I have nothing to do, and despite being Lex Luthor, it's all that. And I made this device that will be able to tell us whenever the dome falls, whenever we have an escape route. It can pick up any electromagnetic stuff. And then Telos comes over the comms. He's like, I'm dropping the dome. Everyone has to go fight each other. And then Lex's device goes off. And he's like, look, the dome came down. And Supergirl's like, yeah, they said that over the comms. And he's like, shut up. That's not the point. Anyway, quickly, take me back to my lab. So they fly over to LexCorp, and people in the crowd are like, look, up in the sky. And Lex is like, shut up. I'm not Superman. Superman sucks. Screw all of you. So they get into the lab. And honest to God, it's just speech bubble after speech bubble. But the gist of it is Supergirl's like, hey, what are you so upset about? Metropolis has actually been pretty good ever since we went under the dome. And he's like, this has been the worst apocalypse of all time. Like, everyone's happy and everything's fine. Like, it sucks. Sure, they're depressed they can't leave, but like, we still have a functioning society that I can't take advantage of. So he's like, look, you're going to have to go fight someone soon. That's what the big dome thing said. So you got to be ready for that. And Supergirl's like, I don't even know who I'm supposed to fight. What am I supposed to do? He's just like, whatever. It doesn't even matter because I don't want to stick around. We're going to get off this planet. That's the #1 thing right now. And so he pulls out this little detector and he's like, this thing will go beep whenever you are near something that gives off the same signal as the Justice League teleporters. If we can just find one of those in any of these other cities or anything around town, then we will be able to get off of here. And that's what we're doing. You got to bring me the tech. And he's like, all right, cool, great. And he's like, and don't get in the fight because you will lose because you suck. And she's like, all right, yeah, thanks. So we then go over to the outside of Metropolis, where Lord Volt and Lady Quark are just standing there like, what are these people? They're just standing here. They're just looking at us. What are we supposed to do? And immediately, these two start bickering like an old married couple. Because they are. They absolutely are. And he's just like, hey, look, I'm just trying to make the best of the situation. She's like, oh, it's like putting lipstick on a pig. And he's like, are you implying that I'm a pig? And she's like, oh, now we're doing this now, huh? And they just start fighting with each other constantly. And they look over and they see Supergirl and just like, there, can you please try not to embarrass me? And they fly into her way and they're like, haha, prepare for a thrashing, S-woman. And Lady Quark's like, thrashing? Well, what decade are you from? You are so pathetic. And he's like, oh, okay, so we're doing this. And so they start fighting and Supergirl's like, hey, I don't really want to fight. I'm trying to follow my tech right now. And he's just like, sorry, bad manners. I am Lord Volt. This is Lady Quark. And she's like, oh, okay. And so they continue fighting more. And they kind of just like, the line here is him saying like, oh, you don't deny that you're a shrew. And she says, oh, I'm sorry, the closet door must have shut. What was that again? And he's like, oh, are you saying that I'm in the closet? What about you? And she's like, I'm not denying it. I hate the fact that we're married. This was all a marriage arrangement. Like, this sucks. And he's like, yeah, no, I don't like you either. And Supergirl's like, good for you guys, but like, who really cares? And as they look at each other and just like, yeah, see, even the Supergirl gets it. Like, it's not even a big thing. And she's like, okay, I'm just gonna go for a while. You guys handle this. And so they start fighting with each other as Supergirl just goes off and figures out what to do with her little beeping machine. They do mention offhandedly that they have a daughter, which is Lady Ferns. She's over in a different Convergence tie-in. And Supergirl is just sitting much later on. She's like, okay, well, focus on this gizmo, wait until it beeps. And it starts beeping. But at that point, Lord Volt and Lady Quark come back and say, okay, hey, we're ready for you now. We're ready to go. And she's like, oh, this thing started beeping, so I gotta go. And they're just like, what? What do you mean it just started? What does that even mean? We gotta fight. And she's just like, shut up, idiot. And then they start fighting with each other again. And as they're doing that, they both manage to come to a truce long enough to say, if you want to go, you have to get through us first. And Supergirl's like, okay. And Lady Quark's like, wait, hold on, what? That can't be right. And so they start arguing with each other again over the fact that Supergirl, and it's just like, all right, so she's not cowering in fear. She's a Supergirl. That makes sense. And as Lady Quark is just like, fine, you know what? Why don't you fight her? I don't want to be in the way. And he's like, oh, I never said I wouldn't fight. And Supergirl says, good to know. And then just punches him in the face once, and he drops like a rock. And she turns over to Lady Quark, is like, you still want to do this? And she just looks down, and Supergirl's like, hello, I asked if you still want to do this. She's like, I'm thinking about it. Okay, hold on. And then all of a sudden, she uses her electroblast whatever on Supergirl, which does nothing, but it does somewhat fry the beeping machine. And so Supergirl's like, no, my beeping machine, Lex is going to call me an idiot again. And Lady Quark's like, haha, if you want to fight, you got one. And Supergirl's like, you do understand that the punch I gave to your husband was not the best I had, right? Like, that was nothing. And Lady Quark's like, oh, I didn't think this through. And it turns out Supergirl does not just have the normal superpowers, she has a bunch more in her Matrix form, including telekinesis. So she just points her hand at Lady Quark, throws her up into the outer atmosphere, and she's like, yeah, Lex would kill me. She's saying that this is overkill, all that stuff. Like, I could have just taken her down. And then we see Lady Quark's like orbit trail as she comes back in through the atmosphere, and just like, all right, yeah, that's that. So at that point, the machine does start working again slightly, enough for Lex to come over the comms and just like, hey, did you find the technology? And at this point, Lady Quark has gotten up out of a crater and said like, oh, you are so dead. But he's like, hey, do you find the technology? And she's like, oh, yeah, it started beeping, but I don't even know what I'm looking at. What does the teleporter look like? And he's like, how the hell am I supposed to know? Whatever it beeps the most towards, just bring that to me. And she's like, well, what if it's really big? What if I can't like carry it? What if it's like half a metropolis? And he's like, do it anyway. I'm not going to take no for an answer here. Stop being so stupid. And as he's like insulting her again, she just like tosses the thing aside, and he's like, hello, I know you're still there. I hope you haven't broken this thing. I ask you to do one simple task. And Supergirl just pouts, and she's just like, God, I can't believe he's such a dick. Why does he always treat me so bad? And then she realizes, oh crap, wait, I need that thing to find out where the teleporter is. And so she zooms down to go catch it. She's too late. It hits the ground and explodes, seemingly in like an actual decent sized explosion. And as she gets out of the rubble, she's like, oh, God, now I'm trapped here, and Lex is going to be so angry with me again. I wonder if any of these other cities will give me sanctuary. And a voice offside says, not a chance, as we cut to Ambush Bug showing up and saying, hey, I don't suppose you're looking for a roommate. And he's got big suitcases covered with stickers from all of the other cities on Telos. And she's like, oh, Ambush Bug, am I glad to see you? And he's like, what, really? I mean, yeah, of course. By the way, why do you smell like spackle? And Supergirl says, hey, we should talk. Okay. Sorry. Like, I was reading this the first time through, and I felt like I was having a stroke. Like, I still feel like I am, if I'm being honest. Like, this issue is so weird in that I don't even think, like, this is a fight. This is just a marital dispute, and then Supergirl doing her own thing, and then ambush bugs showing up. Let it never be said that Keith Giffen gives a damn about anything except for what Keith Giffen wants to do. Because I'm pretty sure whatever notes were passed down from the editors saying, here's what Convergence is, he balled it up and then immediately is just like, and then Lord Volt and Lady Quark start arguing with each other for 12 pages. Like, good on him. It was an entertaining issue. I'll give him that. But for the love of God, I couldn't tell you heads or tails as to whether or not I liked it. Quality-wise, it's got a humor to it. The art is good. I think I'll come down at like a 6.5. Maybe a 7. 6.5. But it's so wild of an issue to just have in the middle of all this. I can see why this could be somebody's favorite, because it's so different from everything else, but it's just, wow. Convergence, Superman the Man of Steel, #1, written by Louise Simonson, art by June Brigman. So this follows John Henry Irons' Steel post-death of Superman. Maybe he's back by now, I don't know. But regardless, it says 1 year ago, while Superman was away, a big dome came down, and so I, Steel, have had to step up and take his place. John Henry Irons, with his armor, is technically not a superpower, it's technology, so he's been able to continue to act and get stability in Metropolis. And it's very much just off the cusp here. We've got a Dr. Hamilton. We have the nephew and niece of Steel, whose names are, I believe, Jamal is his full name, but they call him Jem. And I think it's Nat is the other one. And then they got a cat. And they're saying that they managed to get some nanoparticles off of the dome that are like bio-nanotech stuff and infuse it into the cat. And seemingly it hasn't done anything yet, but they're like, well, we should run some more experiments, see what we can do, get some more information about the dome. And before they can do anything else, two giant dudes in suits come busting in through the window fighting each other and just as quickly go back out again. And they're like, wait a minute, that's armor from LexCorp. That's a bunch of renegades fighting over turf around here. And Steel's like, well, they must think Suicide Slum is not protected. I'll show them exactly what's up. And he tells the kids, keep your heads down. Don't do anything. I'll be right back. So at that point, a couple shots get fired off near the cat. And the cat starts transforming into a semi-technologic form. It's hard to tell based off of what it looks like. It kind of looks like a porcupine, but it's got like weird technology wires and stuff. So they're like, okay, should we tell Uncle Steel? Is that what's going on? It's like, well, he's a little busy right now. I'm sure it can wait. Meanwhile, there are like 20 dudes in these LexCorp armors out there, and they're all fighting against Steel, but he is holding his own. He's managing to do it. Nat and Jem are like, okay, should we grab our armor and go out and help? And Nat's like, no. He hates the fact that we were trapped under the dome with him to begin with. He feels responsible for us, and we shouldn't jump into the middle of this fight because he absolutely would not want us to. However, they happen to be fighting over top of Bibbo's bar, and the bar is taking some damage. So like, he wouldn't mind if we used our armor to go and help people who are in danger, though. So they put on their steel armor, and they go down to help out Bibbo. However, all these people who are going in to like loot Bibbo's place while it's under attack are being held off by Bibbo with a shotgun. So no problems whatsoever. Bibbo immediately recognizes them and says like, oh yeah, hey, I know you guys. Like, I've recognized you in your armor. You guys are getting a rep here without Superman being around. And as someone's about to hit Bibbo over the head with a chair when he's not looking, they jump in and help out. And that's the point where Telos comes in, says, hey everybody, dome's coming down, get ready to fight. And they look up and they're like, oh, we should probably warn Uncle Steel about this. And Nat's like, he can hear. He's not deaf. He may be in the middle of a fight, but I'm sure he can hear all that. And then we cut to Steel, and he's bashing up a guy, being like, hey, everyone shut up. I need to hear this. And he's like, yes, you're going to have to go fight. That's a whole thing. But as he's fighting against one of the guys, the guy collapses to the ground and then says, oh, my powers are coming back. And turns out that the dude who was about to hit Bibbo with a chair was actually Parasite. And so he grabs hold of Jamal's face, and Jamal just immediately passes out. He's just out for the count, even after Nat gets him away. So Bibbo's like, oh yeah, that's Parasite's one of Superman's guys. He drains life forces and powers if you got any. So go warn Steel, because I'll take care of myself down here for what I need to. So they fly up to talk to Steel, and Steel's like, hey, yeah, Parasite's down there, drain Jamal, like, that's a whole thing. He's okay, though, he's breathing, but he fainted. And what should we do about the big voice in the sky that says we gotta fight each other? And Steel's like, okay, one thing at a time, take Jamal back to Hamilton, get him taken care of. Also, you're grounded, I'll go take care of Parasite. And then the moment that he flies away, in teleports Gen 13, consisting of Caitlin Fairchild and a bunch of other people I don't recognize. So they see Steel up in the air and they're like, is that our target? Is that the guy we gotta fight? There's only one of them. Maybe he's got a team elsewhere. Fight him while he's separated from his team. And so the one that controls fire starts shooting at him. Steel fires shots back, which he dodges out of the way, saying like, oh, hey, that would snuff out my flames. Freefall, bring him down to Earth. And so someone who can control gravity named Freefall just starts jetting him down, hits him on the ground hard. Caitlin Fairchild comes in saying, where are the others? Who else is on your team? And he's like, there are no others. It's just me. I'm on my thing. And it's like, wait, hold on. You guys are the ones I'm supposed to fight? You're just kids. And they're like, oh, just kids? How? Well, these kids are going to kick your butt. So Jamal and Nat are looking out the window, and Nat's like, okay, Jamal's out. I got to be the one that does this. I got to help out. Dr. Hamilton, you take care of him. I've got to jump in. So one of the big ones grabs hold of Steel's armor, and his arm starts turning to metal, and he's like, okay, that's his power. I don't feel too bad beating up these kids now. And so he whacks him over the head with a hammer. All the rest of Gen 13 are like, seriously, is it Gen 13 against just one guy? This seems like really unfair. Like, I mean, if we have to, if this is what's going to save San Diego, so be it. Like, we'll go ahead and beat him. But like, seems weird that we're all beating up on one guy. And then Nat comes into the fight saying like, I'm here to help you. And Steel's like, no, wait, don't do it. And there's like, okay, so it is a team. Cool, great, awesome. So they immediately jump in to attack her. They all blast her with energy blasts all at once. And Steel jumps into the middle, taking it so that Nat doesn't have to. And so he crumbles down to the ground, his armor falls away, and as Gen 13's like, haha, we did it! Caitlin Fairchild gets grabbed by Parasite, and just like, oh my god, you've got so many powers, this feels great. And then the big one jumps in, the one with metal, and tries to fight. Parasite's just like, oh, you're even better, you've got all this extra stuff going on. So the Parasite loses his grip on the one after it gets blasted away via energy. The one with firepower comes in, tries to hit Parasite, and Parasite's like, you idiot, if I touch fire I just turn into red hot metal, like it's going great. So Parasite's now fighting against Gen 13 as Nat is trying to get Steel away, and just like, look, I probably shouldn't move you because you are definitely not in good shape, but I gotta get you out of this battlefield. And Caitlin Fairchild, who's still like woozy and out of the fight, is looking on being like, okay, she called him Uncle Steel, and that Parasite monster isn't working with them? Jesus, man, what have we been thrown into here? And our final panel is Hamilton looking over Steel's body, getting a whole like scan of him done, saying like, yeah, every bone in his back's been broken. He's crushed. He's bleeding inside. There's nothing we can do. He's completely paralyzed, and the bad guys have won, and Metropolis is doomed. So, you know, happy endings. I don't feel like this does enough of informing me on either side. I go into this and like, just because I have a loose idea as to who Steel is as like a character, I get the gist of this, but like Jamal and Nat, I have no knowledge of, and therefore this feels like I'm dropped in on the deep end and like no information's given to me is like, what's special about this cat? Why is it transforming? Is that a thing it's always been able to do? Like, what's happening? And then add on top of that Gen 13 just literally being thrown in, and I don't know any of them. I think that maybe one or two of them were shown in like Superboy at the beginning of the New 52. Caitlin Fairchild definitely was, but the rest of them, like, I don't know. And I don't even know what the difference is between the Caitlin Fairchild I know and this one is, because clearly there are differences. So it's not the best. And leaving it on this note of Steel will never walk again. I'm sure next issue I'm going to see him flying around in some sort of new armor that's going to fix him up. So all in all, I'm going to say 6. It's not great. It's not awful. It's just not one of the good ones, at least not yet. Maybe we could turn around the second half. Maybe it's going to get interesting, but for right now, it's a 6. And that's it. That is all the comics that came out from DC Comics this April 15th, 2015. And if you've made it to the end of the episode, I'm going to let you in on a little secret, something that I hope that I don't have to tell you, but just in case. It's tax day. Please tell me you did your taxes, because I'll tell you, I am absolutely the kind of guy who waits until the last, 3 days. As of the recording of this, which is all about 2 hours before it rolls over into tax day, I did it 48 hours ago. So, down to the wire, doing it where I can. Did get a return, so that's nice. Not enough to do anything with because the economy is absolute trash, but this is not a political show. This is not a political show. This is not a political show. So, let's talk about the stupid little funny books that are coming out next week. Next week, we have, in no particular order, the main book of Convergence, number 3. We also have Batman and the Outsiders, Green Lantern Corps, Hawkman, Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes, The Adventures of Superman, Justice League of America, Noon Teen Titans, Swamp Thing, The Flash, and Wonder Woman. Sorry, I accidentally smudged this and just now realized it as I was reading it. So that is apparently all going to be the Crisis books. What does that mean? I don't know. I think that means it's going to be books that were wiped out during Crisis on Infinite Earths. It's going to be that continuity. But then that makes me wonder what the next week is going to be, because next week is just called Infinite Earths. So I don't know what this one is. I'm sure we'll find out. I'm sure it'll be very clear immediately what it'll be. But my guess is about 1985. And all the continuity of that point. But regardless, if you have any thoughts on the comments that I have talked about this week, last week, any week at all, go ahead and hit me up in the comments down beneath the YouTube video if you're watching the video version, or if you're listening to an audio version, you can check the description of it and see that we have links to numerous social media profiles. We have a subreddit, we have a Discord, we have a Patreon. One of those is almost entirely dead, but I will leave it to you to find out which one it is. It's the subreddit. Don't go to the subreddit. I wish I could keep that up more, but this is not a political show. So, yeah, that's basically going to do it for me. I am so happy that Convergence Month is so light, and I can get done these episodes in under 2 hours. Not filming. Filming takes 2.5 hours, which is still good, but, longer. And then, 2 hours for the actual edited product. Anyway, you don't care about this. You just want to... Actually, I don't know why you're here. Why are you here? I don't say anything interesting here at the end. Thank you, I guess, for sticking around, but I feel like I could admit to murder at the end here and nobody would ever know. I didn't do my taxes. Haha. There you go. That's my admission of my crime. Anyway, yeah, that's going to do it for me. Thank you very much for watching, listening. However it is you consume this podcast, be sure to tune in next week and give this one some sort of positive interaction, and don't rat me out to the feds. And as always, try to remember, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.